And so this month, my talk and the theme is about the art of personal agency, right? This art of personal agency, our ability to be choiceful, our ability to be so anchored in our power, in our knowing, in our internal selves, our ability to make choice about our lives, to co-create our lives. Everything in this teaching, we are a center that practices science of mind, religious science. Ernest Holmes' books and teachings is what we work with. And what we know from those teachings is that there is a power for good in the universe and we can use it and that it uses us. There's something greater than we are that we have access to, direct access. And so that's what personal agency is all about. It's about knowing that truth, living from that place. Because here's what we also know. What we know is that in the world is not telling us that we have personal agency, especially not right now. In the world, it feels like chaos, right? It feels like there are powers and forces greater than ourselves that are making decisions, that are doing things, that are driving us over a cliff. And we feel powerless to stop it, or many people feel like, whoa, what is happening? Yes? I remember as a kid, I used to have a recurring dream for a period of time where I was in a car and I'd fallen asleep, and there was a green plastic Tupperware pitcher on the seat, and the car was somewhere like in San Francisco where there were these hills, and like the car was just going like up and down these hills, and you all know I don't like roller coasters. But I would have this dream and it would happen it's happened periodically throughout my life, and I know when I have it, it's letting me know I feel like I'm not in the driver's seat, right? I feel like I'm not able to control what's happening, right? But I think a lot of us feel that way at times right now, like I am in this vehicle that's moving, that's hurtling through space, and other people are driving and deciding what's going to happen, and I'm just a passenger trying to figure out how do I stop the car, get out of the car, get the driver out of the, like, what do I do, right? And so even if you're not feeling that way in your personal life, a lot of people are feeling that way in the world. And so today's talk is about, the talk title is Sovereignty, Own Your Throne. Own your throne. And it is an aspect of personal agency, right? Because this is not about, when I speak about sovereignty and I want to go into the meaning of that word, I am not talking about power over others. I am always talking about being empowered, having mastery over yourself. Because that's the only power there is having mastery over yourself, right? And so when I talk about sovereignty, there's this beautiful quote by Rumi that says, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?" Right? You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? And so we have this sovereignty. We have this ability to be in the seat of self-authority spiritually. Like we have that ability, and yet we abdicate it. There are times where we abdicate that ability. Right, we abdicate that power that we have. One of the beautiful things that I'm seeing in this A Woman's Voice Facebook group, one of the first questions I ask women when they join, or anyone when they join, because there are men in the group, I ask, why are you here, right? Why are you in this group? What called you to this? And so many people are saying to reclaim my power, right? To realign with my power, to get back into alignment with something that I already know is within me. Yes, and that is a journey to sovereignty, right? That is a journey to sovereignty. So the etymology of the word sovereign means the supreme highest ruler, right? Supreme highest ruler. But instead of thinking about ruling over others, it's about ruling over yourself. How are you ruling yourself? How are you leading yourself? Right? How are you governing, as Peter talked last week about the difference between control and governance, yes? How are you governing yourself? Not controlling, not grasping, not trying to control everything, but governing yourself. So this is what sovereignty is all about. And the spiritual meaning of throne is it's from the Greek word thronos, which means elevated seat, right? An elevated seat. And what I'm talking about here today is the elevated seat of consciousness within your own being, because once you become the ruler of your own kingdom, everywhere you sit is a throne, right? It is about your own consciousness, not what you're doing to others, not how you're guiding others, not lording it over others. It is about sitting in your own spiritual authority. So that's what this is about today, of what I really, really want us to get to. You know, I had this incredible conversation with 20 women over the last couple of months. And last week I sat with Marianne Williamson for a while. And we recorded part of that as the interview. And one of the things she says is, we talked about, if for nothing else, I encourage you to register for the summit to see that interview, because we're not talking about politics. We're talking about her journey in leadership and what happened when, as a woman, she decided to go for the most powerful job in the land, because there's a story there, right? And so it was really, really, really powerful. But one of the things she said is, don't wait for anyone to give you permission, right? Don't wait for anyone to give you permission. Tell your own story before other people tell it, right? Take authorship of your own story before other people tell your story. And it's the same concept I talk about all the time. If you are not in the driver's seat of your life, someone else will get in that driver's seat. Right? Someone else will start to drive your life. It could be your schedule, it could be your spouse, it could be your kids, it could be your job, any number of things, right? If you are not in the driver's seat awake in your life. Now, I don't know why this is coming through right now, but I'm just going to reference it. So I don't know if you have seen the incident that happened at the Coldplay concert a couple days ago. Yeah. So for those of you who have not seen that, so at the Coldplay concert, you know how they have the Jumbotron, the kiss cam that happens, right? And so Chris Martin is on stage, the lead singer in Coldplay, and he's you know, they're going to do the Jumbotron, and they're scanning all around, and the camera goes to this couple where there's a man standing behind a woman, and he has his arms wrapped around the woman, and she's sort of leaned back into him. And as it turns out, the man is the CEO of a company who is married, not to the woman he's hugging. And the woman is the chief people officer, chief HR officer of the company, married to someone who's not hugging her, okay? And so the Jumbotron catches them, and they both, all of a sudden when they realize they're on screen, they're like deer in the headlights, and then they both go separate ways, and there's just like a whole thing. And Chris Martin goes, oh, I think we got someone in trouble here. He goes, either they're having an affair, or, you know, they're just really shy, right? So it's been, I mean, this has been like everywhere. So on LinkedIn, there are think pieces about it, and like all kinds of things about leadership and HR, and, you know, the legal ramifications. The CEO has had to resign. The company is like looking for a new CEO because they were on scale to go public, and so now this is like, you know, this is a big thing. Why am I even talking about this? So this came up because, again, if you're not in the driver's seat of your life, if you're not making conscious choices, if you're not awake, you will get hijacked by the world that will make choices for you, right? I mean, you know, now I'm not affirming an affair. I don't know what the ins and outs are, but this is the thing. You know, maybe a conscious choice could be, oh, well, maybe I won't be out at the Coldplay concert. You know, if you can't get to, maybe I won't have an affair, then maybe it's like, maybe I won't be out with my side piece at the Coldplay concert, right? Maybe that could be, you see what I'm saying? It's like, you know, because like if you're not conscious, if you're not making conscious choices, the world's going to make them for you, right? So now 2 families blown up, you know, 2 people out of a job, and all the fallout that will happen, and potentially, you know, and all the people who work at the company are now concerned because with startups you get lots of stock options and different things, and you're waiting for that to mature. So many people are impacted by this choice, right? This being asleep, yeah. And so this is what is meant by. I mean, this is the opposite of being on your throne, right? Owning your throne, being sovereign in your life, having mastery over yourself. Right? Understanding how you're moving through life, being awake as you make your choices, because otherwise the world will make them for you. Yeah? Are y'all following what I'm saying? Yeah? So here's the thing I want us to walk on a little bit today, with the little bit of time we have left. Let's go on a little journey, shall we? So, the hero's journey, I'm going to walk us through that a little bit, because here's what happens for us, right? So in the hero's journey, what happens is the hero starts out, or the heroine starts out, and, the status quo is working. Yep, everything's great. Status quo is, well, maybe not great, but it's familiar, right? It's comfortable. And going along, and life is what it is. I know what's going to happen. And then something happens. There's a inciting incident. There is something that happens. It could be a call that you get on that a little voice, a little nudge, a little pea in your shoe, a little pebble in your shoe, right? Something starts to go, like something else wants to express. Yes? Or it could be something traumatic happens. Something big happens that's now a wake-up call. Right? Like you get caught in the Jumbotron, it's like, whoa, now I'm on a whole big journey of a different level of discovery, right? It could be something traumatic that happens. But we all have that in our lives multiple times where we're going along and then something calls us up higher, right? I'm called into ministry. I leave my corporate work. What am I doing? What is happening, right? I'm called into leaving a secure ministry and starting something new. What am I doing? Right? But that call, there's something in us that wants to play bigger, that wants to express more, right? And so one of the things Ernest Holmes says is, as we become inwardly aware of the presence of spirit, we must also become aware that we are centers of divine operation. This is our birthright. We are centers of divine operation. We will always want more. We will always want to express more because spirit is eternal. It is powerful. It is creative. It is expressing. It has no beginning and no end. So we will always want to evolve, right? That voice is always going to rumble in us. And so here we go, where this voice is rumbling, and then a couple things happen at this point usually. It's like either we quell the voice, so we stuff it down in some way. Maybe we stuff it through a series of relationships. Maybe we stuff it with food. Maybe we stuff it with illness. Maybe we stuff it with some addiction. Maybe we stuff it by just being completely unconscious, right? But we don't want to deal with that voice. We don't want to deal with that urge. We don't want to deal with the fact that we know we're bigger than we're actually showing up, right? And so either we stuff that down or we say, okay, I surrender. What am I going to do? Right? And we step out on faith and we start down that road. And then typically what happens is as we're walking down that road, and sometimes even when we're still in resistance, a guide shows up, right? Someone shows up who is a mirror, who is a guide, who is a partner, who is a Yoda. It may be a community, it may be a person, it may be a situation, but someone shows up who can help us, guide us, walk with us on this journey. Right, who can walk with us on this journey. We may discover it through literature or some other way. It may be through reading. It may be a person, right? But something emerges. God reveals itself as the very next step, the guide that's needed to walk us through this journey, yes? And so that is, now we're on the road, and now we're learning things like, we're learning things like the presence of God is within us. We're learning things like we have the power to co-create our lives. We're learning things like the ways of the world are not the final word, right? We're learning things like we can co-create anything with spirit, that 1 plus God is a majority. We begin to learn these things that cannot be countered, right? And we have experiences that prove it. So we step out, we try things, and then, we have a demonstration. That's what we call a miracle in science of mind, right? And we prove it. We begin to prove this truth, prove these principles, prove our power, right? We begin to walk with a bit of sovereignty. We begin to walk, and we begin to own our throne a little bit more. Yeah? Y'all with me? Yes? And so what does it feel like when you're in that state, when you're in that owning the throne, when you're in that knowing the presence is within you? What does that feel like? Just tell me.
The percolation of aliveness.
It's the percolation of alive. You feel alive, yes. Yes, there's texture to that. What else? Light, yes. What else? Confidence, absolutely. Time expands, right? Time expands, yes. Yes, you feel an expanse of yourself. Absolutely, right? So we're walking along and we're here and we are now really, really feeling this. And then sometimes what happens is there rise up some little challenges, right? Some little challenges might rise up to meet us at that point, right? And I am not a fan, nor do I believe that God tests us, but there is certainly something that happens when you make a bold move spiritually, right? You got to prove it. You got to prove that consciousness. And there will be things that arise for you to prove your consciousness, right? To prove how anchored in this truth you are, to prove what you say or think that you really know. And sometimes, it shakes us, right? Because it could be the things that test our sovereignty in that moment. It could be some of our primal fears usually, right? It's like money. Whoa, right? Oh my God, I lost my job. Or oh my God, I lost my business. Or oh my God, like the money's dried up, right? Or it could be health, right? It could be health. Like there's a big health scare staring me in the face. What do I do now? How do I remain sovereign? How do I own my throne when I'm facing a big health challenge? Right, that has shaken me to my core. It could be fear of other people or judgment. Oh, you're getting too big. One thing Marianne Williamson and I talked about is how, that when you decide to play big, no matter who you are, we're talking in the context of women, but it's true for everyone in this world. When you decide to play big, there will be someone in your face or in your world who's going to go, well, who do you think you are, right? You're just uppity, which is a very loaded and coded word for those of you who know, right? Right? Who do you think you are? Who do you think? Why are you so blah, 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 right? Why are you taking up so much space, right? So we have that, those are some of the things that come up, and that can really trigger our approval, our need for approval, right? And especially if it's coming from people we love, people we're comfortable with, people in our social circle, our family, and they're responding to our bigness. And it can be frightening, right? It can be frightening. It can be threatening. But this is all a test to test the solidness, the depth of your sovereignty, the depth of your knowing that you are made in the image and likeness and out of pure spirit. That is the truth of your being. That is the truth of your being, right? You are made from that which hung the stars in the sky, created the cosmos, created things we can't even imagine. That is who you are. Right? That is who you are. And so you have to be anchored in that, own the throne, and look at whatever is in front of you, whether it's the naysayers, whether it's a health challenge, whether it's a money challenge, and say, get thee behind me. This is not true. This is not true. The truth is the presence and power of God within me knows exactly what to do, how to do, and I trust that. Right? And so that is part of the journey, is that we will get these things that will test us. And Ernest Holmes says true liberty comes only through true self-mastery. True liberty only comes through true self-mastery. You cannot be free if you don't have control or mastery over yourself. If you cannot govern yourself, you can't govern anything else, right? You end up just operating your power and your trauma all over other people, which is what we're seeing collectively. Right? Because there's no internal knowing of a divine presence of something greater than what we see collectively is a lot of people operating their wounds and their trauma and their drama and all of their pain on other people. Right? And the way we change the world is we get mastery of ourselves. We understand that we are sovereign beings. We understand that we have a throne and we sit on our throne and we are rooted in our spiritual consciousness and we move from that. We live from that. We choose from that. We build from that. And when we do that, collectively, things begin to shift. Right? Collectively, things begin to shift. And so that is the reward, my friends. That is the reward we get when we literally walk this journey, this hero's journey. We slay those dragons within ourselves, right? That are showing up maybe as other people or other circumstances, but it's stuff that's coming up out of our own consciousness. I used to love, and I still do love, the series Game of Thrones, which is really surprising for people who know me because it is, Would you say?
Nerd.
Well, I wouldn't say nerd as much as it is not me, but it's sort of me, and it's also sort of violent and sort of, it's interesting, but I got caught in the story of it, right? I got caught in the storytelling of it. But what was very interesting is watching all of the drama and trauma and commotion over external power, literally trying to get a seat, and how many people died, how many people were tortured, how many people lost their lives, how many things happened just trying to get this external seat that was melted down iron or something, right, of all these different swords, right? The Iron Throne, I think that's what it was called. And so at once, the artist in me, the former actor in me, I got caught in the storytelling in the theater, right, which was great storytelling and fantastic acting and sets and all those things. And then the metaphysician in me is looking at this going, look at all of this crazy stuff over something that is external. No one's going within, and all of the different challenges that are happening, that's happening to individuals and collectives is because everyone is externally focused. Nobody knows the power is within them. And the few characters who do sort of disappear, right? And so, but then it wouldn't be a story, right? There would be no drama. So it would not be a great story. But I want to say, drama on the screen is fantastic in our lives, not so much. Right? Not so much. We don't want to be, in a cage fight with somebody about whatever, right? With somebody about who's going to sit where at the movie theater or whatever, right? Like we don't want to be in that energetic in our personal lives, and so it's just interesting to me to observe, like, how did this hold my attention so much? And then the practitioner in me is going, if they had just done this, right? If they had just listened to so-and-so, that one man who got killed who was trying to tell them, right, just to be quiet and the power is within you, then this other things wouldn't have happened. And then it would have ended in one or two episodes. So the point I'm making, y'all, is this. We are in a chaotic time, and it is crazy creative. Because here's the thing about chaos. There's so much power in chaos. Right? There's so much power in chaos. There's so much opportunity in chaos. I'm not talking about economic opportunity for the chaos capitalists. I'm talking about the opportunity to harness the energy to transform ourselves. Right? Because chaos is change energy, right? It's old is breaking down, new is trying to emerge. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening, and being able to be still when there's chaos, being able to be centered when there's chaos, being able to tap into that creative energy, but not let it take you over, but actually drive you to the thing you're called to do. Because we're all here for something, and we all agree to be here for something at this time. This is not a mistake. Right? So my request of you is to really, really figure out for yourself, what are you here for right now? Right? What are you here for right now? What in you wants to emerge right now? Wants to speak right now, sing right now, shout right now? What in you wants to express right now? And begin to do that, be about that. And don't compare yourself to others because, all of our lives look different. We are all each made uniquely. We are made uniquely. And so what my expression is not what someone else's is. And someone can be doing the exact same thing I'm doing, and it's still going to look completely different, feel completely different. We're two unique beings. So there's no comparison. Right? And your journey may be, or your call, or your expression may be to care for somebody who needs care. Right? Or it may be to build a $1 billion business. Or it may be to paint out in your garden. Or it may be just to love your body into health. It can be any of those things, all of those things. There's no big or small in God, but you have to be about your Father's business. There's a reason you're here. Right? And it's time now for us to step into what we are here to be doing. Yes? Are y'all with me on this? That is why we're here. That's why I created this place. That's why I created this place. I think it birthed through me because what I want and what I am and what I love is the energy of creation, the power of creation. Tell me not to do something, and guess what? Or tell me you think it can't be done, right? Even with the summit, right? Even with the summit, we had said, the board and I decided, okay, we're going to wait until the fall. And then very next board meeting, I came back and I said, we got to go now. We got to do it now. And we have to swing for the fences right now. I strongly feel that. And the board's like, okay, let's go, right? Let's go now. Let's do it now. Don't wait. Yes, let's go, let's go, let's go. Yes, exactly, that energy, yes? And so that's what I'm saying to you. There's something in you that wants to do something now. Do it. Do it now. Yes, you are the sovereign of your life and your being. You have a throne, own it. Own it and live from that place. Let's turn within.